At the dawn of total war, Germany dreamed of a colossus capable of swallowing cannons, tanks, and soldiers, only to disgorge them on the far side of the sea. The Messerschmitt Me 323 Gigant documentary, Hitler's giant aircraft, the Messerschmitt Me 323 Gigant. The promise was immense, to carry in a single flight what others needed an entire fleet to move, to cross the sea and sustain a front that was dying of thirst and fuel. With its oversized silhouette and 6 propellers, it looked like a logistical miracle until the sky began hunting giants. On the route from Sicily to Tunisia, war laid an ambush, and the flying whale became a target before it ever became salvation. One day in April, 1943 sealed its fate and reshaped the campaign map. This is the rise and fall of a giant that tried to sustain the Reich, but instead dragged it toward the depths.
Este hexamotor fue inicialmente concebido como un planeador enorme, pero además de ello, sirvió en muchos frentes como el caballo percherón del grupo de transporte de la Luftwaffe. Originalmente concebido para la invasión de Inglaterra, el Gigant fue la clave de un tipo de guerra completamente nuevo, una guerra basada en la movilidad de las tropas.
When the Third Reich was still sweeping across Europe like lightning, the German High Command began dreaming of the next step: a massive airborne invasion. In 1940, with France defeated and the English Channel in sight, the Luftwaffe General Staff received an unusual order from Hermann Göring to design an air transport capable of moving panzer tanks, artillery, and hundreds of soldiers in a single wave. Germany had already proven its air power with the Ju-52, but those tri-motors were toys compared to what the Reich needed for a war spreading across continents. That is why planners returned to the drawing board to chart the future.
Para hacer que resucitase la Fuerza Aérea Alemana, la que se llamó Luftwaffe, el velero y sus fieles seguidores fueron el punto de partida ideal para comenzar de nuevo. Los diseños engendrados en las pacíficas montañas del Ren se convirtieron en mortíferas armas de guerra. La investigación llevada a cabo allí daría lugar a los futuros aviones alemanes, desde el pequeño avión cohete Comet hasta el grandioso 321, el planeador gigante.
Thus was born the Me 321 Gigant, a gigantic glider conceived by Messerschmitt and Junkers engineers for assault operations. It was a motorless monster with a 55-meter wingspan, built from steel, wood, and fabric, designed to be towed by 3 Messerschmitt Bf-110 fighters flying in unison, a maneuver as dangerous as it was spectacular. Its mission was simple yet titanic: land behind enemy lines with light tanks, trucks, and troops, unload within minutes, and take off again if luck allowed. But luck did not. During trials in 1941, multiple tows turned into aerial tragedies. A single bout of turbulence or a sudden wind shift was enough for the glider to break loose and crash with its cargo.
Los despegues eran con mucho la parte más peligrosa de la misión. Por eso, frecuentemente, el inmenso avión era asistido por 8 cohetes de peróxido de hidrógeno montados bajo las alas.
Even so, the problems were not solved. The Me 321 was too large for the war being fought and too fragile for the war to come. Yet its potential was undeniable, and the Luftwaffe chose to add engines. The result was the Messerschmitt Me 323, a powered version of the glider with 4 engines producing 1,200 horsepower each. To support its enormous mass, Engineers designed a tilting cockpit with front clamshell doors that opened like a jaw, allowing tanks, guns, or trucks to drive straight in. That metal mouth was its greatest virtue. It made it possible to load or unload in under half an hour what previously required cranes, ramps, and days of effort.
Era colosal desde cualquier punto de vista. Las compuertas de carga situadas en el morro se abrían como una almeja gigante, facilitando el acceso sin restricciones a una bodega de 2 pisos. Soldados, tanques y cualquier tipo de material era embarcado por medio de escaleras y rampas. A plena carga, pesaba cerca de 44 toneladas y se deslizaba a 140 kilómetros por hora.
Thanks to its payload capacity, the aircraft could carry 2 4-ton trucks, 52 fuel drums, or 130 fully equipped soldiers in a single trip. It offered an internal volume of more than 110 cubic meters and an operational range between 800 and 1,300 kilometers, depending on weight and wind. But what it gained in space, it lost in speed, making it easy prey for Allied fighters.
El Gigant, sin embargo, con su enorme bodega y su gran capacidad de carga, era exactamente lo que la Luftwaffe necesitaba. Pero incluso con 4 motores, debía ser remolcado para despegar, por eso se le añadieron otros 2, además de un tren de aterrizaje fijo multirrueda. Situado en los costados del fuselaje, este tren de aterrizaje era una maravilla de la ingeniería. Con él podía carretear sobre las zanjas y piedras de aquellas pistas sin preparación.
The upgraded Me-323, now with 6 engines and greater versatility, suddenly became a key asset. As the war turned against Germany, the need to move resources quickly and beyond the reach of the Allied Navy grew desperate. By 1942, with Rommel's Africa Corps isolated in North Africa, the Gigant became a lifeline. A flying whale capable of hauling fuel and spare parts when convoys were being sunk in the Mediterranean. Its size, once a show of power, became a symbol of urgency. Around 213 units were built, each a feat of industrial improvisation. Yet beneath the olive-green paint lay its greatest weakness, a mixed wood and fabric structure that made it flammable, slow to repair, and vulnerable to shrapnel. 2 sides of the same coin now faced each other on the battlefield to reveal which would prevail. An exceptional engineering achievement or the shortcomings of a Reich beginning to crack.
The Messerschmitt 321 and now the Me-323 gave Germany the feeling that they could command the skies forever. While this was not true, the largest land-based transport aircraft ever made did provide them with exceptional service during the war. The 2 main fronts where it was used were the Soviet Union and Tunisia.
The trial by fire came in late 1942, when the map of North Africa had become a trap. Erwin Rommel's Africa Corps, which months earlier had nearly reached Cairo and the Suez Canal, was now retreating toward Tunisia, cornered by British and American forces. Sea routes were lost. Convoys attempting to cross the Mediterranean from Sicily were hunted down one by Allied destroyers and submarines. Germany had only the sky left. That was when the Messerschmitt Me-323 Gigant became crucial to sustaining a front that was dying. From bases in Italy, these colossi launched flights loaded to the limit. Fuel in barrels, ammunition, spare parts, even entire vehicles. Each mission meant keeping one more division alive in the desert.
The battlefront in North Africa seemed ever-changing, with Axis forces and Commonwealth armies constantly flipping in victories. The German supply lines went from Italy to Malta and ended in Tunisia. This route was particularly challenging because Malta was still a British colony and served as a takeoff point for attacks on German air or water convoys. In response, the Luftwaffe regularly bombed Malta, but the resilient territory never fell to Germany. As Germany's efforts in North Africa began to fall apart, Me-323s were sent in swarms with manpower and munitions from Sicily.
In theory, it was a masterstroke. The Gigant could carry what a small ship could, but much faster. In practice, it was a suicidal gamble. Its cruising speed of just 217 kilometers per hour and its sheer size made concealment impossible. From the air, a Me-323 cast a shadow as large as a B-17 bomber. But with the agility of a truck with wings. Pilots knew that if an enemy fighter found them, there would be no escape. Still, the flights continued. In early 1943, dozens of Me-323s crossed the Mediterranean escorted by Bf-109s and FW-190s flying in tight formation. They were aerial convoys, a procession of giants with engines roaring in unison. Some returned safely, others vanished without a trace, swallowed by the sea. Each aircraft lost was a logistical wound and a symbolic one. The Reich was beginning to lose faith in air supremacy.
The Deutsches Afrika Korps came to rely on the equipment delivered by the Me-323s since Axis ships kept falling to Allied attacks. Adolf Hitler insisted on reinforcing and supporting his African army, despite clear signs that the Tunisia campaign would mark an Allied victory. Unfortunately for the Germans, the glacial speed of the Me-323 led them to the same bitter fate of their Me-321 gliders. British fighters took them down like flies, even when the Me-323s were protected by escorts. The massive size of the aircraft led to its eventual downfall, as it impeded pilots from carrying out maneuvers to avoid enemy fire.
Finally, on April the 22nd, 1943, that faith shattered completely. The Allies launched Operation Flax, a coordinated USAAF and RAF campaign to destroy the air bridge between Sicily and Tunisia. From bases in Malta and Libya, P-40 Warhawks, Spitfires, and Curtiss Kitty Hawks patrolled the corridors, watching for any sign of the giants. That morning, British radar detected a transport formation approaching the Tunisian coast. There were between 21 and 27 Me-323s loaded with fuel drums and vital supplies for the Afrika Korps. Suddenly, the Mediterranean sky became a slaughterhouse. Allied fighters dived from 4,000 meters, bursting through the clouds with concentrated fire. The Me-323S, too heavy to maneuver, could barely react. Their 6 rear machine guns roared in desperation, but it was like throwing stones into a storm. One by one, the giants caught fire. Fuel tanks exploded into fireballs that lit the sea, leaving black trails stretching to the horizon.
Despite those 36 protectors, the choice to separate from the Central Air Convoy made the transport planes easy targets. When they learned of the incoming enemy, the South African Air Force sent 38 P-40 Warhawk fighters along with the Spitfire squadron. Some British and Polish Spitfires also joined the chase. The opposing aircraft met over the Gulf of Tunis, and the Allied fighters almost wholly obliterated the German transport aircraft. 22 Messerschmitt Me-323s fell into the Mediterranean Sea.
More than 120 crewmen and soldiers died instantly. The few who survived were captured or went down with their cargo. The Mediterranean was littered with debris, fuselage fragments, burning fuel drums, bodies floating among the waves. The disaster was so brutal that the Germans immediately suspended daytime flights. From then on, the Gigant flew only at night and at low altitude, trying to slip beneath the stars. But war had learned to hunt in the dark. Every trip to Tunisia became Russian roulette, evading night fighters, flak, storms, and sheer crew exhaustion. The Gigant had become a symbol of necessity, but also of sacrifice. After the April 1943 massacre, the Messerschmitt Me 323 survived, but like a wounded animal. Its role in the Mediterranean was reduced, yet it continued to fly. Pilots who had watched their comrades burn over the Strait of Sicily kept taking off, knowing each mission might be the last. It reflected a Luftwaffe that, unable to surrender, gambled its final resources to keep an empire alive as it collapsed. In the month that followed, the Gigant was used wherever the Reich needed it. Supply runs to Italy, evacuations from Greece and Crete, even experimental missions on the Eastern Front.
Pero en las duras condiciones del frente oriental, el enorme explaneador seguía siendo una mole vulnerable a los ataques de los aviones enemigos. Ya podía volar por sí mismo, pero era un lento blanco sin posible escape, una presa fácil para los pequeños pero mortíferos cazas enviados a derribarle. Interceptado por cazas aliados, este indefenso Gigant encuentra una muerte terrible.
Some took part in the evacuation of Sicily, carrying hundreds of soldiers from Catania to Naples without losses. A small triumph amid general collapse. Yet its size, the very quality that had amazed the world, became its sentence. By 1944, Allied air dominance was absolute. Europe's skies were patrolled day and night by P-51 Mustangs, Spitfires, and P-47 Thunderbolts. In that environment, a Me 323 had nowhere to hide. German escorts grew scarce, and fuel even scarcer. The Luftwaffe needed fighters, not clumsy giants that could barely lift off when fully loaded. Production stopped that same year. Only 213 units were built, many grounded for lack of spare parts or worn down by poor materials. Some were abandoned on French or Italian airfields. Others were dismantled to reuse their engines. By war's end, no operational Gigants remained. The Me 323 symbolized the Reich's excessive ambition, a grand project born too late, in the worst possible context. It proved that strategic air transport could change the tempo of a campaign, but also that success depended on controlling the sky. Without air cover, all that payload power did was fill the sea with smoking wreckage. In the years after, no nation attempted anything similar. Not even the United States or the Soviet Union dared repeat the experiment in wartime. Technology shifted toward faster, armored, and more maneuverable transports. The C-47 Dakota, the C-54 Skymaster, and later the C-130 Hercules became the true functional heirs to the concept the Me 323 had anticipated, bearing a lesson etched in fire: speed saves more lives than volume. The Messerschmitt Me 323 Gigant sought to be a logistical miracle. On the drawing board, it looked invincible, but in the Mediterranean, it was slow prey. When the Reich needed speed and stealth, it offered volume and horizon. Its story is that of a grand, belated gamble, a dream of steel, canvas, and will that crashed against the reality of an enemy sky. In its wings traveled the illusion of an empire that still believed size could dominate war, when time already belonged to the swift. The Me-323 did not fall alone. It dragged down with it Germany's certainty that technology could bend destiny. And in its flames, the Nazis learned that even giants, when the sky turns hostile, ultimately fall.